Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today, the inherent nature of confidence. Recently I put a post out on LinkedIn asking people what they would love to know about confidence, what they're curious about, which was really useful. I got all sorts of brilliant ideas of what to talk about on here. And somebody said, I'd love to know if confidence is inherent. And I often talk about confidence being innate. But I looked up inherent and I really liked what it said. That something that's inherent is permanent, essential, and characteristic, which is, I think, a really beautiful way to think about confidence for me. It really makes a lot of sense. Now, if you're listening to this and you're not feeling confident, you may be shouting at me, saying that your confidence is permanent, essential, and characteristic. But bear with me, because as I go on this journey to explore confidence today, hopefully you'll start to see that permanent, essential, and characteristic nature of confidence in us as human beings, not just you. And that's really helpful. As I've just said that, I feel that's really helpful to see that this is not a conversation about you as an individual. This is about the essential nature of us as human beings and how we work. And coming from a place of believing that there are some truths about that. There are some truths about how our experience of life, particularly in this conversation about confidence, how our experience of ourselves is being created. There are some truths about that. So let's think about confidence and think about where we can see it. And again, as always, the invitation is to be really open-minded about where you will have seen these things that I am describing. And it always starts with children, especially very, very small children. So those that are, probably around the toddler age. It's probably not quite so obvious in babies, but I think it's there too, But we see it when children start to behave and act and do things in the world more, don't we? They don't do so much when they're babies. And that inherent nature of confidence is there in those small people. I often say, that they're the first ones on the dance floor, any family party, aren't they? They're not held back by any thoughts about themselves. Children will try anything, sometimes to the point of endangering themselves, it seems. I remember when mine were little, them shinnying up to the highest height of a climbing frame or some other piece of equipment in the play park, and me standing at the bottom, perhaps not feeling so confident because, of course, I was, I wasn't in their bodies. They're connected to their bodies and they see their own capability. And I think that can be a real challenge for parents when Our children see themselves as capable and confident, but yet we have a lot of thinking about that, don't we? About what they really can do, what the potential dangers might be in what they're doing. So we can see that, if you go, I'm not suggesting you go and sit next to a play park and watch small children. You may be moved on, but if you've had children, if you've got children who are relatives, you've been a child, but it's probably a bit in the dim and distant past. But perhaps talk to your parents about what you were like as a child, how adventurous you were, and how up to mischief you were, and how you were doing things that possibly now you wouldn't contemplate trying to do in the same way. Now, that is showing us, I think, that there is something in the way we are born with this wonderful trait of confidence, that it is there right from birth, that we're born with it. So to me, that's about the essential nature of it, that it's an essence of us and who we are. A characteristic of a human being is to be confident, is to try things, believe in ourselves, not be held back because of those things that we think about the world and ourselves in it. And that really is the key of what happens next. So we take that child who has that connection to, and I'm going to say connection to, not that they have it any different to anybody else or to us as adults. They have that connection to that permanent, essential, characteristic nature of confidence. It's there. They live their life with it, supporting them. Now then, let's take that example of the child climbing up the climbing frame with a fearful parent. And we've all done it, me too. And we say to our child, that's dangerous, be careful, watch out. And those seeds of doubt start to be planted. And this is not about criticizing anybody's parenting or the way you were parented or any of that. In that moment, that parent brings their conditioning to the table or to the playground, and they start to say things to that child that begins to put some seeds of doubt there. And then other things happen, like the confidence in ourselves or the way people speak to us about what we're capable of begins to cover over that confidence more. So somebody says, you can't do that. You're not capable of things. You're not good enough, etc. All those different thoughts start to grow, be planted like little seeds inside us. And once there's a little seed of a belief, which comes from what we've learned from those people around us, those seeds start to grow. And once there's a little seed, our system starts to notice other things that seem to reinforce that seed, seem to reinforce that belief, seem to make it look more true. Because that's how confirmation bias works. Once we believe something, we see that in ourselves. So the moment we have a moment of doubt about doing something, about putting ourselves out there, we go, oh yeah, that's because I'm not confident. So there it goes, it expands. But what I want you to see now is that the confidence itself, the ability for us to do things, that surety, that isn't really gone, it's just covered over. It's just hidden for a while. And it's just being hidden by some things that we learnt from other people, nothing to do with us at all, from other people as we grew up. We learnt these things about who we are, how capable we are, what we can do, whether we're good enough, etc., etc., etc. It might seem, that might make it seem like, well, it makes it seem like there's an illusion there. It makes it seem like confidence is gone. I don't have the voice in my head that says I can do things anymore. Or in fact, like I often think, there is no voice saying you can do things. There's just a doing of things. In the present moment, the child does not think, I can do this. The child just does things. So what we do as adults when we notice we don't think we can do things is we try to put over another layer of thinking. So we might try and affirm to ourselves that we can do things, another layer of thinking over the top there. Then we might, we might try and swap the thought that says you can't for the thought that says you can in the moment. When in actual fact, underneath all the thinking, there is just a body doing things. If it's a speech you need to make, it's a mouth moving and words coming out, preparation for a talk taking place. It's just things are happening, always. So we're looking, as we look out into the world, to reverse this whole process by adding more thinking in. And in actual fact, what we really need to do is peel back the layers of what's already there. Otherwise, you end up with, your confidence is inherent. Then the layer of thinking, the things that you've learned about you not being good enough and not being capable are here. And then there's another layer of thinking over the top of that. So the whole thing is becoming layer upon layer of thinking, when in actual fact, it's an awful lot simpler than that. And this is how I see it, is that a lot of things you can do to increase access to your confidence are in fact sending us looking in the wrong direction to the outside world to try and put more in to build up confidence. I mean, the language around it is very much of that, isn't it? Build confidence, create confidence, have more confidence, when in actual fact, it's less that we need. And how that less occurs is that over time, if we're guided to look in this direction, we just start to become more discerning of those thoughts that say we're useless, those thoughts that say we can't do things, those thoughts that say we're not capable, we're not good enough. We begin to bring some discernment to them, to look at the fact that they're not true and they're not real and they're not anything that's actually factual about us. And what happens over time is that through that process of bringing some doubt to those thoughts naturally disappear. They naturally start to dissolve. And then your essence, that permanent essential characteristic of confidence, just naturally comes through, because there are no thoughts stopping you doing anything. And that's pretty much what confidence is, isn't it? It's the ability to do things. When we say I feel confident, we go do things, don't we? And that's all it is. It's just a doing. It's just a human form doing things in the world without a load of rubbishy thinking on board. So I hope that's gone quite long today, but I hope you found that really, really helpful. It's such a different way of looking at ourselves and how we work. And I hope you're seeing that inherent nature of confidence that's in you and me and everybody else. Lots of love and take care. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.